At some point, we're going to have an actual intro. Welcome to Floor is Yours. I am Bryan Fonseca, joined alongside Timothy Bain, who is to the bottom of the screen, Tony Schwartz, who is to the other bottom of the screen. You can visually figure out who's who. And Sean Rochester, who is to my left or right side. Your left,
this is great.
My
content.
right, whatever. We're here. We're back. It's the second show and the second week that we're doing this. If you missed the first one, this is the reboot of Floor is Yours, which is being taken over by us because, well, Ethan said so. And we're going to take comments throughout the show, well, really toward the end. And we have some things we're going to get into. Remember, this is more of a national show with, we'll talk about some Heat stuff. We're actually going to lead with some Heat stuff today because they played a meaningful game nationally against the Lakers. And apparently there's some officiating controversy coming from that. But, fellas, let's get right into it. The Heat played the Lakers last night from the time we're recording this. And they barely hung on and won the game after another shitty fourth quarter performance. And I don't want to talk so much about like just the game itself because we've been doing that all over the network and other places. But I guess the hacky question of what this means going forward, we could start there for both teams. And Tony, you can take this first because you were at a Dave Chappelle show last week, so you didn't show up.
Oh, well, that's pretty damn good a reason not to show up, but appreciate you. I think Miami's starting to figure out exactly what it takes with this roster to find success. Clearly, they have to launch more from the three-point line. And clearly, they have to be able to, finish at the rim. And Bam's helping them a lot in that regard. And Duncan's finding his stride off the bench. And Tyler's shot profile looks a little more three-heavy. But, that Lakers game, you saw the stats come out about Miami being the worst fourth-quarter team in the league. You've really felt it there again. They got to figure out. It's the most easy.
Like 3 minutes, Tony. I was like, oh my God, 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Nobody scored. My daughter was like, why are you so stressed out, Daddy? I really said, like, she was very concerned at my stress level, Tony. It was bad. But what are you seeing, Tony, from the fourth? Like, I have my reason, but I want to know what you think about the fourth.
About the fourth, yeah, it's a bunch of new guys for the most part trying to figure out where they fit with each other, especially in the defensive side of the ball. They really slow down and start getting in their head. That read and react offense is gone by the time we hit 6 minutes. We start getting into pick and roll sets. It slows down really hard. You stop going to the looks and the pace that you play with the other three quarters. The good news is it's super fixable compared to all the other problems. They just have to play within their own pace and play their own game. That's something you can coach. It's something you can drill. You can practice it. It's a super fixable problem. You can't fix size. You can't fix, athleticism. But those aren't the reasons they're losing. They're losing because they turned the ball over 14 fucking times in a quarter, So that's a big one.
Sean, let me go to you next because we had some fun about this on the post-game show yesterday, which became 5 on the floor after where we noted that the Heat are terrible in fourth quarters, and you noticed that I placed a bet fourth quarter money line Los Angeles Lakers shortly before tip off. That cash, by the way, the Heat are minus 44 in fourth quarters, and the Lakers also wasn't a great loss for them. We don't know what's going on with Anthony Davis. D'Angelo Russell got ejected, so if you could hit both sides of this coming out from that game, and just sort of what can we look at moving forward as it relates to these two teams.
Well, I keep refreshing my betting apps, trying to get the Grizzlies fourth quarter money line in early before the line moves. I know Bryan Fonseca is moving money on the fourth quarter money line market, so I'll make sure I get that in before the show is over. So if I'm not paying attention, it's because I'm looking at my betting accounts. But
Grizzlies
the
are
Lakers yesterday. I know, right? Yeah, definitely easy, and especially if the Heat call the first time out of that quarter, lock it down. Lakers last night. High leverage environment. We talked about that yesterday on the post game. Like, it was very intense. There was a lot of technical fouls going on, a very physical game, high emotion. The D'Lo thing, whatever, man. Like, he was yelling at the one official and the Gucci man referee. Yeah, Lowry got in a technical. It is what it is, man. People complain, and then it's continued on today. It's almost 24 hours later, and you still got LeBron tweeting stuff about how the 2-minute report, last 2-minute report doesn't matter because the first 3 quarters and the first 10 minutes of the fourth quarter matter too. Thanks, LeBron, for telling us that 46 minutes of basketball actually do matter. Just shut up, man. Like, seriously, man. Like,
fairly odd parents back in the day, they said like the only 2 minutes of a basketball game the only time of basketball game that mattered was the final 2 minutes. I stepped on my own joke there, but it was said in the Fairly Odd Parents of like 20-something years ago. I'm old.
Good for him. Whatever. Look, I mean, it's I understand why he's so frustrated because it's been a clip that's been going around. He's in transition. He kind of curves from the outer third into the inner third towards the basket. Duncan Robinson's there. We know over the offseason, Duncan Robinson's been working out. He got his left hand on LeBron, pushed him to the basket. Duncan gave him a little flex. He stood over him and did the little boy, get out of here, that type of stuff. He didn't like that. Duncan, he's a new man. So, LeBron is 38 years old. He goes out there with the young bucks like Jaime, who was locking him up, absorbing body contact, shutting him down. Haywood Highsmith, locksmith, knocking him out. And then who else? Jimmy. Locked him up on that last, made him, throw that ball to the corner to Cam Reddish? Cam Reddish?
Forced him to pass to Cam Reddish.
Yep. He can't hang in the air like that anymore at 38 years old. Bam had a good contest. Haywood got out there and contested the shot. Cam Reddish isn't making that shot. Come on, man. That's like what we say last night, throwing the ball out to Ira Newble in his earlier days with the Cavs. Don't do that. Not tonight. So, look, the Lakers, it was kind of a meltdown by the Heat. We talked about our fourth quarter struggles, but they'll get that straightened out. It's been a common occurrence. We know we talk about the third quarter, but they'll get that stuff straightened out. When the rotations are better too, I think the Josh Richardson thing, while he's coming back from injury, Caleb, Highsmith, I think there's going to be other guys that play that role, maybe can do it a little bit better. Lowry also.
Timmy, can you hit the Lakers portion of this? And I don't know. It's too early for me to be worried about anybody except maybe Memphis. But should the Lakers be worried after sort of blowing what I thought was a winnable game for them, even though they played well in the fourth quarter?
No, man, for all of his greatness, LeBron is, like Sean said, 38 and yet 21. And to be kind of sort of fair, yeah, LeBron doesn't get the calls he used to get, but dude, you're 38. Like, you need to accept your mortality. Even if he still is superhuman, the refs are not calling it and just adjust. Like, it's been about a year and a half now where LeBron has been complaining. And I mean, I'm a fan, like how you guys are gambling addicts. I have a fantasy addict. So like addicts. Yes, I have the itch sometimes, but I have to watch a lot of Jeremy Grant because Jeremy Grant is the star of my fantasy team. That's amazing, by the way. And Jeremy Grant actually gets more free throws than LeBron. And we know he's as aggressive. I think LeBron is accepted, but I'm not worried with them because Ryu Hachimura is out. Gabe, I feel so bad for Gabe. That needs to bother him for like 2 years. Fondo has not played a minute yet. Like I think the Lakers are going to be fine. They have to figure out how to protect AD some way somehow. Like that man, maybe caught like a shimmy from Bam and maybe tore a hip flexor last night. I think the Lakers are going to be good. Not the second seed, 13. People say the Lakers will be fine. But just D'Lo is a cone. Like D'Lo does not stop. I don't think D'Lo can stop me. And I have like a sprained MCL right now. Like I don't think D'Lo can stop me. So at some point, that's why they got Gabe, and maybe you put Gabe at the point of attack, and you let D'Lo play some off ball. Actually, and Reeves, I think Reeves is pretty good. Like I don't like the hype they give him just because he's a white player playing for the Lakers, but I actually like the dude. He has a good game. But and I think Buddy, like Ron Palenka made Buddy a promise 6 years ago that he's going to get him to LA. I think if D'Lo continues to stinking up the joint, that D'Lo could find himself in Indiana and then to start Gabe with Buddy. Personally,
Tony, who won the battle of Middle America, Tyler Hero or Austin Reeves?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I went to Lakers Twitter after the game, and they clearly thought it was Tyler Hero. It reminded me of how after game 2, how everybody was trying to trade Tyler. That was rough. I want to be the guy to just talk about the Lakers for like 10 seconds in a positive light. They showed a lot of fight. They're a much better team than they were last year with the pieces they have right now. They have to figure out the the Vanderbilt piece, right? When he gets back, I think they get a lot more versatile and a lot better. But Austin Reeves and LeBron running the offense, as long as they're taking turns and Austin's getting enough looks at it, I think they do a pretty damn good job, especially down the stretch in the half court. But that D'Lo piece, oof, that's rough, man.
Yeah. I picked them up in fantasy, and I'm benefiting from that so far, other than last night. Austin Reeves, I actually expected more from early on in the season because he was getting a lot of MIP love, and I made the case on an Action Network pod that, yeah, you should look at him for most improved player because plus 1,400 and also kind of somebody that the voters can see themselves in. And these awards are voted on and they can get behind. And, you guys know where I'm getting at. So ultimately, I think these teams they're okay. I think the Heat had looked very dire when they were 1-4, and now they got 2 wins. Although they escaped by the skin of their teeth, they're 3-4 with a winnable game at Memphis that I don't know if they're actually going to win because Memphis is pissed off and has a bad record. So we'll see. We'll see if Jimmy Butler could get up for that game if he sees Marcus Smart and all of a sudden wants to light them up. As for the Lakers, they need to get healthy, but I think they're going to be okay. The Western Conference is weird, kind of stacked, but also not that stacked. I don't know what's kind of going on there because there's just a lot of teams in this league. Kind of like in the NFL, I don't trust anybody. I don't really trust a whole lot of teams in the NBA either, except Denver. Denver's amazing. Denver's the only team that I trust wholeheartedly to, like, if you want to put down a future for them to win the title, go right ahead because I think they're a machine. We're going to move on to a little bit more of a national sort of tilt here before we come back. And do keep the questions going. Actually, we could put up a couple of these, Manny, because we got some as it relates to the topic we were just getting into before we toss it right now to Celtics versus Timberwolves and the sort of fallout from that. Timmy really wanted to bring this up, so I'm going to start with you, Timmy. The Timberwolves look legit. I don't care because we're not even at November 10th yet, but the Timberwolves look legit. They stifled the Denver Nuggets. They did the same to the Boston Celtics, and they look like world beaters the first 2 weeks of the season. 1, this question's for me. Does this matter? And 2, this question's for everybody else. Should we care?
I don't know if we should care yet, but you and I spoke about this a few years ago. I said by 2025, I think he has to be the best shooting guard in the NBA. I said that. I also said that he reminds me of the Flash of Wade, but he also has a better 3-point shot. I love his game. And we always talk about how certain players take leaps after the World Cup. Even though you American guys, you didn't do too well in the tournament. I do see that Ant-Man and Halle, like those were my 2 breakout stars from that team. And boy, oh boy, do they both look pretty good. Rudy is looking how he was supposed to look last summer. His blocks are way down. His point, actually, everything the stats are down, but his actual effect is actually working out. So I give credit to that coaching staff. I haven't watched enough to actually see the big difference because it looks the same to me. What's up, Greg? But and also I'm happy people are starting to realize that Jalen McDaniels is a defensive monster. That was not having on Miami. So like I said, they're the number one defense, and I just don't know how sustainable it's going to be because outside that starting 5, it's not much to go there. I see Jordan McLaughlin just been out for four
He has
weeks.
your injury, Timmy. He has a sprained MCL. He's going to be out for a month. So you're toughing it out.
Yeah, I'm
Jordan McLaughlin. Jordan McLaughlin.
To Greg's point, that Cat is a baby. Cat always messes it up, and the Bucks always win. There's no way they're gonna pay those 7 players that money in 2 years. So at some point, I think Cat's gonna end up in New York some way. But right now, it's cool to see that this team, like everyone's saying, I mean, I'm a Heat fan. Yes, I can come to Miami, but he decided to thug it out. He's taken the team from Cat. This is my team. So as my next favorite player, because he's gonna be my next favorite player, I'm just happy to see him win or lose. Like I watched you guys watch it overtime with Tatum. Like he took the ball from Tatum, scored. Like and Tatum's supposed to be the next American star MVP, but Art was like, no, it's I'm the captain now. So I'm just to see that grit on both sides of the ball from a young player. Despite whatever what I don't like about Keller Gobert, I like that Art is putting this team on the shoulders. And while other teams are maybe now taking it slow or getting adjusted, they have one of the few cores that's been together. Chemistry and this type of season. That's where the Heat usually stack up wins because the team is so consistent. But we know the Heat's issues. So I just think that chemistry is riding their wave right now. And by Christmas, New Year's, and other things have locked in, then the Wolves will start to falter. But it's good to see right now, especially for who I think is going to be the best shooting guard in 2 years, Anthony Edwards. Regarding
the next great American star conversation, I would say yes, Jason Tatum is positioned to do that because he's a Boston Celtic, etc. I think there's a large portion of America who now hopes that it's Cooper Flag who carries the flag for that conversation moving forward. Sean Rochester, your thoughts on what this means for the Celtics? Should we worry about the Boston Celtics, Sean?
Yeah, Timmy hit a lot of good points. I don't know if they're a pretender or contender just yet. It's too early to really label them, I think, on either side. But I'll say this. He made the good point. They're the number one defensive rating in the NBA right now. They have a lot of length. And I think to your point about Denver, they're the team you got to try to beat, right? And so the way that they're assembled with Rudy, with Cat, with Nas, with McDaniels, they have a lot of length and size. And Ant obviously is not that size, but the athleticism. They just have a good build. And they gave Denver, I know they got one from them in the first round last year, right? Yeah, I believe so. 4-1. So,
yes.
That's not a competitive series. Nobody reacted. I didn't know if I was on mute or something.
Forgot this is an audio medium as well. So yes, for the audio listeners, the answer to the question is yes.
4-1.
Greatest 5-game series of all time. Go ahead, Sean.
Yes.
Proceed. And
so, yes, that's an exaggeration to say that series was competitive, but they did give them trouble. And I think, if you're trying to beat Denver, you have to be able to combat Jokic. But I also don't think, if we look out and zoom out to the rest of the league, back in the 90s when you knew you had to go through Shaq and you would employ like a Jim McIlvaine or a Greg Foster or a Dwayne Coswell, like you just had to have that third center just sitting there waiting for Shaq. I don't think that's the way the league is going to go either because you don't play that way anymore. But they have, you can say what you think about Gobert, a big defensive center that is a very good player. Cat and Naz Reid are all three very good players. So it's not like they have some just 7'2" bum that's out there just to like stop Jokic, which isn't really going to happen. So I don't know if they're going to be the team that can do it, but they have the size that I think can give them trouble. It's going to come down to can Ant just go nuclear in a series and he's just killing him every game. But I like him. I watched a little bit of the game the other night when we were playing against them at their place. It's just a tough West, and that's the thing. Injuries, health, all that stuff is going to come into play.
And it does all the time. Tony and I are also going to touch on this in a second. But remember, if you're watching this program, it is sponsored by Home Depot. Find all your fine products, holidays, things of that nature. If you need a hammer, as I was saying, I do last week, you go to Home Depot and get your hammer. Do that with the description in the comments. You have to click the link, and that's where you get your deals. So if you need anything at all, go to Home Depot because they have pretty much everything, and they sponsor this fine program. Tony, give me your best minute on Minnesota.
Yeah, and I definitely got to get to that Home Depot link because I have a ton of Christmas decoration shopping to do. Naz Reid is probably a starter on a lot of people's teams as a defensive six man for them. They have an incredible, like when you look at the regular season and ways that teams succeed, you have depth. You have superstars that can pick up for other superstars in case they have a down night or in case there's an injury. You got that up and down. You have role players that can fill in and play above their roles. You have that. Jaden McDaniels, not Jaden McDaniels, but you have guys there that can really succeed when given the minutes past what their skill level is. When they play together, they play really well. Right now, there's a bunch of repeatable analytics for them. They're a great rebounding team. They're great at creating turnovers, getting blocks, and they're exceptional at creating mid-range buckets around the rim and within 14 feet. So right now, they're like 7th in 2-point attempted, 29th in like made 2 points. It's great. They need to be able to generate more threes with a trade. They can make that happen. I just don't think this is a team that goes away. So we don't fight enough on this network. Greg said they're fraudulent. Bullshit. They're not fraudulent. They're 4-0 at home. That's a trait of a good team. And they have a great win differential. That's another trait of a good team. I know a good team when I see them. And right now there's a hole in the West where Memphis will be. And I think it's Minnesota's to fill.
There's certain organizations that I just don't trust. This is one of them. So we'll see ultimately. I do think that they're like, here's the thing. I can't think Minnesota's completely fraudulent and also think Anthony Edwards has a chance to be a top 10 player in the league. But I still think that Karl Anthony Towns and or Rudy Gobert is going to have to go at some point. And I don't know if either of them are going to go this season. So I feel like that sort of puts a ceiling on what they can do. But I think I need that to happen to ultimately feel good about them. I think Minnesota is legitimate defensively at the very least. Jaden McDaniels, who Timmy mentioned, how you not like him?
Hooper, real fucking player. He's like, a real hooper.
He's really good. Naz Reid, when he's available. I mean, he's probably overqualified to be in the position he's in, and it probably doesn't make sense that they have him behind Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, but it is what it is. And as for the Celtics, which we haven't talked a lot on, don't really care because I think they're going to be fine. Yeah, they lost to Minnesota, and I think Minnesota is going to be a pretty good regular season team, but I think Boston's still going to be one of the best teams in the league, and it is what it is. Do we have anything else to add on this front? Do we want anyone here to talk about how this potentially relates to their favorite team? Being that, you know, this is a 5 on the floor spinoff after all. There's a Heat tilt here somewhere. Did you see anything, Timmy, Sean, or Tony, that the Heat could sort of channel the next time they face the Celtics, or are they ill-equipped to do what Minnesota does, which is play good basketball the first 2 weeks of the season?
You can't cover size. I mean, Minnesota's got a hell of a lot of length. You can't manufacture size.
Thomas Bryant's not getting it done for you?
Not getting it done against those bigs.
Thomas Bryant's a little bit overhated already. It's been 2 weeks
already. He's really good for us.
The Heat.
There's a Jovic joke in here somewhere, but I just can't. I don't want to be the one that uses it. So too soon.
There's like 50 jokes that I don't make per show that I wish I would. But not yet. We're going to go on to our next segment, which I don't know what we're calling this yet. Maybe floor is mine, maybe floor is ours. We'll figure it out. But it's a segment where right before we get to the comments, because we're going to get to a bunch of comments to end this, we're going to talk about something that popped out to us this last week in the NBA. We did it the first week, and for the first week, we basically all talked about rookies. So that was different. And we get 60 seconds each. I don't know if we have the clock, Manny, but if we do, we could probably unleash that at some point. And we can pretty much go. Let me see what direction I want to go to first. Tony, you look the most ready. So we could probably start with you. 60 seconds. We don't have a clock. Okay, we'll get one.
No clock.
We'll get one manufactured at some point. Maybe people in the chat, the many of you that are there, I don't actually know how many, so I'm just going to say many, can keep tabs on us. But Tony, 60 seconds on what popped out to you the most this past week of basketball.
All right, I love that the comment section is counting me down like Giannis Antetokounmpo free throw. Where am I going? Our boys in Memphis aren't just terrible, folks. It is ridiculously terrible. They're not 1-6 bad.
The feud between Tony and Eternal continues. Keep talking.
I knew I was going to trigger that, man. I'm waiting for him to pop up in the comments somewhere, buddy. I'm sorry that.
The hell just happened? Eternal came through and gave him.
Did Eternal possess money to kick him off? Like, whoa,
man, this isn't playback. What are we doing?
Turtle got off playback and got you out of here. Go ahead, Tony.
I had to fight my way back. I've been fighting all my life. I'll fight through Eternals, BS. That
was 60 seconds, apparently, so make your point quickly.
They're bad. They're bad. You're playing 5-out basketball with nobody whose first step interests me in the bare minimum. Nobody. Desmond Bain can kind of use bully ball tactics to get to the rim, but you're still slowing down your offense to make that happen. They're a team right now that has no construction. When Derrick Rose was actually playing basketball, it looked kind of okay because he knew how to attack angles and make things work on the offensive end. And it was still bad then. They have no defensive structure whatsoever. Ja Morant comes back. The only thing that it accomplishes is they might be able to start a rotation on half of their half-court possessions going forward. Hey, guess what? This team is constructed to fail. So if I have to plant my flag on something, I'm not planting it on Memphis because they're 1-6. That's definitely not the case. I'm planting it on Memphis because they're constructed poorly. And they knew they had this problem going into the season. They did not care. And the only thing that I can think is that they are aware of how far away they are from actually contending with the roster that they have. Hoping that Steven Adams will be healthy this season was nice, but it proved to be not the case. That team's out of the playoffs, boys. I'll plan on it now.
Definitely more than 60 seconds. Timmy, you're up.
I don't think it was, by the way.
That was like 3 minutes, Tony. The Raptors, I was a Scotty Barnes truther since he was drafted. Yes. But I'm also sad that it's now at the expense of Siakam. Like, basically, the things, the position, the shots and the touches that are making Scotty Barnes look good are making Siakam look like. So Siakam's usage went down by 6 points, and Barnes' usage went up by 7%. So it's like, I like both of those players, but it's like Highlander. Only one 6'8" wing could win. Like OG fits in where he gets in, but it's like only Siakam or Barnes could be good in one season. So Barnes is looking like people expected Ben Simmons to look, really and truly, and it's because it's Toronto, people aren't paying attention, but that man had like a 27-8 and 3-8 game. Like, that man is good. And it's just very simple things. Like last year, Nick Nurse wanted him to play point guard. No, he's a point forward. So, and another sneaky thing with the Raptors, did you know that Dennis Schroeder is top 3 in total assists for the season?
Yep. He also has a higher usage rating than everyone on the Raptors except for Scotty Barnes.
Facts. So with Dennis focusing on being the PG and Scotty Barnes is doing everything, like he looks good. But someone has to go, and I think it's going to be Siakam. Sadly, even though I think OG is going to be the one to go to the Sixers. I actually want the Cameroonians to team up in Philly and maybe stress out Sean, and you love Siakam and Embiid in Philly. But yeah, I just want to say if you haven't bought stock yet in Scotty Barnes, get your stocks. That man is going to be a star.
It would have been nice for the Cameroonians to team up in, I don't know, Cameroon. Where they could probably make the Olympics, but Joel Embiid decided to take the easy path and join Team USA so he can add a gold medal to his resume because he's probably never going to win an NBA championship. Sean, what stood out for you this last week?
So Timmy provided a great segue, unscripted, talking about Philadelphia. First, I want to update. Last week, we talked about James Harden. Election day in Philadelphia, they passed local issue 10. All the local late night establishments, they've been given funding. They'll be able to stay open without James coming into town anymore. He'll be here, a couple times a year, but they need that funding without his support. So I'm staying in Philadelphia though, 5-1. The Philadelphia 76ers are actually pretty good, and they just got reinforcements. Not star reinforcements. I think there's reinforcements that are going to get flipped as expiring contracts later for OG, someone like that, eventually down the road if they choose to. There's a lot of options that Philadelphia has. But even in the current assembly of what they have, Philadelphia has figured out something that our friend Doc Rivers could not. It's something called ball movement and player movement. Nick Nurse has those boys moving, and they're harder to guard because it's not just stare at James, stare at Joel, clock runs out, one pass, ugly basketball. And suddenly now you have Tyrese Maxey racing down the court in transition, beating you down the court and getting to the basket. Now you have Joel Embiid involved in pick and roll, involved in dribble handoffs. They haven't played the best schedule yet. They lost to Milwaukee on their first game, Everybody else they beat is kind of weak, or we're missing people. But I think keep an eye on them. I put them in that same category as like when we talked about Minnesota, teams that you don't trust. But I do think that there's someone to keep an eye on, especially because they can improve their roster also as they move forward.
So Manny gets some questions ready to go because we're going to do that right after this to end this. But I'm going to go. This is probably not going to be 60 seconds, but I was going to hate on Cam Thomas because I don't think that's legit long term. I was going to talk about Bam shooting a 3 because I thought that was pretty noteworthy, but I'm going to talk about Jordan Poole. There are rumors that he went out on a $500,000 date with Ice Spice.
Love that.
Now my face lit up when I read this story. I'm going to read the article from TMZ because I saw this yesterday. Jordan Poole is finally addressing the rumors. He shelled out $500,000 on a date with Ice Spice. Fellas, if you don't know who Ice Spice is, you know who Ice Spice is. And the Washington Wizards guard said it's all fake news. The 24-year-old Hooper's hilarious denial came during a meet and greet with fans this week when one young supporter asked him straight up if there's any truth behind the talk of an extravagant romance with the MC. Definitely not, Poole said. Definitely cap. I think you're lying, Jordan Poole. I think you went out on a date with that woman and spent $500,000, which for you is not a lot because you're on like a max-ish or max contract.
105 or something like that.
Yeah. I think you got enough money. And this all started by, of all people, from my understanding, Cameron.
That sounds about right.
That's a really good podcast. So I like that podcast.
If you're not aware of how this came out to be, I'm reading again. Rapper Cameron started the drama. Cameron's not really a rapper anymore. Started the drama back in May when he called out Poole, and then he said, "Jordan Poole." This is a direct quote from Cameron. "Jordan Poole, you spent $500,000 on an Ice Spice date." Kev said on his "It Is What It Is" podcast, "You're a munch, and you're playing like a fucking munch. This is not you from last year, bro. Go back to Milwaukee and figure it the fuck out. Get back in the playoffs because you look crazy." All I got to say is I think Jordan Poole did it because there's enough here. And Cameron also was on top of what was said to Jordan Poole, or what was said rather to Draymond Green from Jordan Poole before he got punched in the face. I don't think Cameron's going to be out here making things up, even though there's reason to believe that he would. Definitely not 60 seconds, but I thought it was worth your time. Okay, let's get questions. Here's the take. All right, Joseph Blanco with the serious basketball question. Here's the take. Why not replace Thomas Bryant with Nikola Jokic? Oh, I'm tossing this right to Sean as Bam's replacement in the second half. So the ball keeps moving and opponents keep on guessing Miami's plays. Now, as somebody who likes Nikola Jokic and wants Jovic.
Man, that was going to be my fuck. I was not going to answer the question. I was just going to focus on if we had Nikola Jokic, how much he would be at a great replacement for Bam in the second half. Go ahead.
This is a good show, people. I'm telling you. It's going to be an even better one as we continue to work and build this. Sean, I don't think Nikola Jovic, as much as I do like him, I don't think his future is at the 5 at all. Nope. I think his future is at the 4, perhaps even the 3, but probably more so the 4 in the modern day NBA. Does he have a future? Is probably my question. But we'll see. Sean, what do you think about this question?
Definitely has a future. Talented kid, 19 years old. To thrust him in there at this point, when you have guys, I just don't know whose minutes are you giving him. And I know the usual answer is Kyle. He doesn't play that position. And I know we can go positionless, but let's chill out with that.
He's on the point guard. He's on the point guard eternal.
So whose minutes are we giving him? Like Jaime Jaquez is playing better than him. Let's just keep it real with that.
Great basketball.
Jaime Jaquez can do things.
Freaking out last night over Jaime last night.
I mean, he's playing.
That was gorgeous. All the fakes and the hesitations and I love it.
He's playing.
Jaime Jaquez can do things.
Playing. You know, it's not like they're both.
Sure.
You can compare them. But I get what you're saying.
And don't get me wrong, Jovic can do things that Jaime can't too. But I think the biggest thing that we have to keep in mind is that we all love and adore Eric Spoelstra. And what he cares about more so than anything else is defense. Who does he guard right now? You put him. I wouldn't put him out there on a 5. To your point, Brian, he's not big enough. He's gotten bigger, but he's not big enough, and I don't think that's the best suited for him. And when you put him out on the perimeter, I still think he gets lost, and that's okay for a 19-year-old to get lost. He's going to learn. To learn, you need reps. Do you send him to Sioux Falls? Is that really getting you reps? Is it better to have him around the normal club and learning there? I'd like to see him find minutes like he did. What was it, the Minnesota game, right? Where he came in and started. Yes. I think just we need to be patient. Like everyone got so excited about FIBA basketball and Vegas Summer League, and everyone thought he was going to be a damn most improved player, all-star, the next thing. Look, Haywood Highsmith is out there doing his thing.
Killing it.
Jaime Jaquez is out there doing his thing. There's just no minutes for him right now. Kevin Love isn't even playing, and he was playing well before he got put to the bench. I just think it's going to take an injury. It's going to take time. Patience. It doesn't mean that he's not a good player. It doesn't mean they don't believe in him. Patience.
Well, another one, Manny. We'll try to go through these quickly. But I think you got to be patient with Nikola Jovic. He's in the second year of a 4-year rookie contract where he'll be 23 by the end of it. So I think it'll happen at some point. Just, not tomorrow. PV says, is there any good reason why Bam should not be allowed to have 4 3-point attempts a quarter?
I'm trying to, my eyes got to be deceiving me. Did that say a quarter?
I don't think Bam's going to shoot 4 3-point attempts a month, PV.
A month.
Now,
quarter of a season.
But we'll help you out here.
A season?
I'll say this, Tony. I'm going to toss it to you here. But I'll say this about the 3-point shot, and PV follows up with, if Bam makes 40% from 3, that's like 2 minutes of free on-court rest.
Yeah.
Well, he's not making 40% from 3. Look,
build him a statue if he makes 40% from 3. Like, put it at Bayside next to like the Hard Rock or whatever is over there.
Yeah, Duncan Robinson, who's like, he's in the NBA to shoot. He's shot 40% from 3 twice. Like that's very hard to do. I do think though, Tony, I'll say this. Bam taking that above the break 3, if we're going to call it that. Look, Anthony Davis was like at the free throw line, and typically that's where you would guard Bam bringing the ball up the court because you think he's going to dribble handoff or pass it to a wing or do something else, inverted pick and roll. But he actually pulled up and took the 3 and made it. And I think that's something like, if he does that every 3rd game, every 4th game within reason, I think that's 3 that I would feel most comfortable with him taking. Not at the end of the shot clock, like just taking. If they're going to give that to you, then you can use your speed if they're going to respect you and guard up. If you can make 33% of those, I think that's a win.
I think that there's opportunities for him to even get corner. Oh, by the way, I turned the reactive lights on just to show that I am still in support of the clubs in Philadelphia, unlike James Harden. That's first things first. I think that you want to get Bam threes, you got to get it in the flow of the read and react game. And as soon as you take Bam out to the perimeter to try to set him up for 3-point opportunities, you're removing the best part of our offense, which is the read and react system that Bam runs from the center of the floor and from the high post. I mean, that without it, the team doesn't space well enough. It doesn't have good enough athletes to make anything happen. We capitalize on bending defenses and attacking them off of those bent defenses. I don't mind getting Bam a 3, especially above the break. I think there's a great opportunity for it when you let Jimmy run a strong side action. Bam's on the weak side. Have him sprint out to the break when Jimmy collapses to the basket and give Jimmy an option somewhere to go with the ball when all else fails, because routinely he's been under the rim this year with nowhere to go. So give Jimmy an option. That's great. In the 4th quarter, I don't want Bam shooting 3s. I don't. There's got to be a better shot that we can get down the stretch, especially right now in our offensive woes. I'm okay with Bam shooting 3s, but if he does it, just noted it takes away from our best action. So how many times is it going to happen a game? That's the only thing.
Yeah, it took
every time he does that trail thing, I tell him to reverse that ball. It's cute when he makes one. Reverse that ball.
Yep,
that's his name.
He took one on, what was that, the 7th game of the season? So at this pace, I mean, if he takes one every 7 games, You're still looking at a single-digit amount by the end of the season.
And I swear this will be a quick point. You have Bam space to move the big out of the paint. He does that already. He's doing it already at 18, 20 feet. You know, another 2 feet ain't going to make the offense look any better.
Yeah, like I think ultimately the reason why I wouldn't mind him shooting that three is because I think he can make it. And I think that's sort of what matters here, right? But it's not something you want. Like, he's not ready for the Al Horford, Brooke Lopez, post Kenny Atkinson sort of transformation where all of a sudden you look up and all the 18-footers become 3-point shots where they're taking 3, 4, 5, 6 threes a game. Like, that's just not happening. Maybe it does in a couple of years, but I don't think that's happening. Clearly not this season. Maybe at some point, but I don't think it's a big necessity. I mean, how much else can Bam do? Like, is ultimately what it comes down to. But I do think he can make an open three. But if he could make more of them, he probably would be shooting more of them. Manny, what else we got? Kaz, what up, Kaz? Says, is Love transitioning to the UD role and no longer a rotation piece? UD, he has what title now? He's the
Vice President of Basketball Development.
Vice President of Basketball Development, which is a fancy way of saying he's somebody's boss now in that organization. You know, I don't think he's going to be wearing a suit to the job like that. I feel like UD is going to be UD. Timmy, what do you think about this? Should Kevin Love be in the rotation?
Sean made a tweet, and I want to at least see it through. Maybe Love should be the backup five. Like, I don't have any numbers to suggest it. I mean, Thomas Bryant did have a pretty good contest at the rim last night with LeBron, but at this point in time, it doesn't hurt to see what Love looks like at the five. Like, the one thing I missed last night was there was no Kevin Love outlet passes. Like, Bam had one, but who knows what Love at the five does when you have Hamish and Caleb and Jay Rich all playing. So I just want to see it. I don't think he's ready for the OG role yet. For the vibes wise, I always said last year in the postgame that he fixed the locker room. But I just think it's worth it to try it out to see what Love can give you as a backup five. It just, who knows? It cannot be worse than what Bryan is doing right now. It can't.
I don't think Thomas Bryant's been that bad though.
He's been good.
Like he's
the target of the week.
He's a backup center, and I think he's overhated by people who watch the team. And I think that he's better than Zeller, better than Dedmon, better than I'm running out of backup set. Better than Hassan Whiteside was when Bam took his spot, probably that first year before he got traded. I mean, maybe Love, inevitably will be a backup five at some point just because Thomas Bryant's going to miss time because historically he has, unfortunately. But that's the NBA. Everybody's going to miss time. We're probably about to get out of here. I ain't even going to lie to y'all. But thank you for joining us. Remember, Home Depot in the link in the description.
Christmas lights with a discount, man. It's right there.
Yes, all that stuff. Sean, how are you betting Heat Grizzlies tomorrow?
Fourth quarter money line is obviously the first thing I'm going to bet. I haven't looked into anything else. Today, there wasn't a lot to bet on. Let me see what the line is on Better Edge.
1.5.
Our 1.5 point favorites over under 219. Man, that's a short line against a bad team. But I think I would wait for the injury report to come out in the afternoon or in late morning, see if anybody's going to be like a random scratch because they had too much Memphis barbecue tonight or something. And keep minus 1.5. I roll with that.
I think it's a stay away from me, or I'll bet it live. But
another one to look at, player props. Josh Richardson keeps getting over under 1.5 threes. Get that shit out of here. He has to make 2 threes. Under,
I think he eventually will. I think Josh Richardson is someone who I think will turn.
He's just having a slow start.
Yeah.
He's injured. He's a bit.
I'm curious about if Bam and Hero are going to come out with some extra chip on their shoulder because there's Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bain on the other side. And maybe Jimmy has 15, 5, and 4, and he's like, y'all got it. We'll see what happens.
He will.
Thank y'all for joining us. We'll be back next week.